Good morning, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the news at Ben. I hope you all had a fantastic week. As you might have noticed, I had a rather busy one, at least for the last couple of days of it. I wanted this morning to talk a little bit about last week, my severing of ties with Reform UK. I don't want to dwell on it because I think it's already been dwelt on quite a lot. And I want to talk about the assisted dying bill that's going through Parliament. If I can deal with the second one first, the assisted dying bill. It's something that we must never allow to pass in this country. Sadly, it looks like it will become a law. But there is no basis on which I think we could empower the state to take lives of the people. And no number of anecdotal stories of loved ones and relatives who've suffered in their last few years of life or last few months of life could convince me that we should hand over this massive power to the state. This would be the thin end of the wedge, irrespective of the checks and balances that are in this bill and would manifest themselves in the act. Irrespective of those checks and balances, this bill and act would then be used to deepen its position in our society, and over time there would be a greater use of the tool of putting down people who are terminally ill and or extremely frail and old and so on. This would be the thin end of a very bad wedge. And anyone who thinks that the state could act as a good arbiter in this process surely must recognise that they can't be. You know, if we have a two-tier criminal justice system, which we do, and I think many people watching this video would agree with that, we're basically saying we don't trust the courts of the UK to get it right. And I don't trust them to get it right. And we would be trusting them to make decisions about life and death. That's madness. They're locking up people for tweets they don't like, and we're about to willingly give them the power over the life and death of British citizens. There's no basis on which I can justify this bill. It's an erosion of our rights as people, and it will embed in our culture a preparedness to kill our own. And it'll become an option. You know, when people get older, it'll become an option, an actual option on the table. Well, you know, you could die, or you could go on living at great cost to your family and the state. That is not an option that should be on the table. Death is not an option. Death doesn't give you any further optionality. Once you've exercised that option, it's all over. So anyone listening to this, I would urge you to stand against the bill. It's really, really a step way too far for the state to be able to have that power. We need to be protecting life, not extinguishing it. And then, as far as I'm concerned, in the last couple of days, I just want to say a couple of things. Contrary to what Nigel said on GB News, this is not sour grapes. I'm not bitter. I'm genuinely not bitter. I don't know what it is that Nigel thinks I could be bitter about. I mean, surely he can't genuinely believe that my not being deputy leader is going to cause me to be bitter. I didn't want that job in the first place. People may not know, there's no reason why you should know. I've only said it very recently, but it actually took me 3 weeks to decide whether or not I should accept Richard's kind offer to become deputy leader. And I only accepted that offer when he pressed on me that it was vital for the party's advancement that I should accept it. And I didn't want the pressure of travelling the country up and down, motivating the grassroots and so on, as I've been doing. I didn't want it, but I took it on because I knew that was the right thing to do at the time. And I'd be very glad, frankly, not to be in politics, as I've said so many times. The only reason I'm in politics is because I think the country is facing an existential threat. Yes, I think the country will cease to exist as a nation state unless its direction of travel is changed dramatically. And that's got nothing to do with sour grapes. That is me wishing reform to revitalise itself, to form itself in a manner which will give it the ability not just to win the next election, but then to deliver proper governance. And there's something fundamentally unsound about a political party that wishes to promote democracy, promote the interests of the British people, trust the British people to direct the politicians in how it governs the country, but won't trust the British people to direct the party itself. It just doesn't make any sense. And I fear for reform's direction of travel if it will not democratise. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not democratising. Nigel said he would convert the party from a limited company, a company limited by shares, to one limited by guarantee. That hasn't been done, and actually it's legally impossible. You would need to set up a new company limited by guarantee, and you'd need to make an application to the Electoral Commission. That has not been done. The new constitution, as bad as it is, and you've heard me speak about it before, there is no application to the Electoral Commission so far for that constitution to be approved, and it can't be used. It can't be legally used, and it can't be applied until the Electoral Commission gives it its blessing. And that application should have been made. It hasn't been made. Now, of course, reform may create a new party, a new limited company rather. It may issue the shares, and it may get this constitution adopted by the Electoral Commission, but it hasn't happened yet. And so I would urge Nigel not to think of me as being personally critical. My criticism is of the party and the way the party is structured and the way the party is being run. And that may not sit comfortably with him, but it is not an attack on Nigel. I'm not attacking you, Nigel. Just do the job in the way that it needs to be done in order to make sure you win the next general election and the country can be saved. And in that endeavour, for the next few months, I will continue to campaign for all the things I believe in, and I will be speaking to all the great minds on our side of the debate, and I will be garnering views, and I will be watching reform. And when the moment is right, I will either completely desist and give up politics because reform has got its act together, or I will do whatever needs to be done in order to make sure, assuming reform doesn't get its act together, do whatever is required to be done to save our country. And that may mean a new political party. It may mean my joining another political party. It may mean my simply continuing to campaign and put pressure on the various people who are in Parliament. I suspect it won't be the latter. I suspect that I will conclude, as I'm pretty certain in my own mind, that the only change that can be made is through the ballot box, and I will be looking at a mechanism to achieve that. And I will be very upbeat about it, and I am upbeat about it because we will have the cover of the United States doing all the right things, I hope, under Trump, which will change the narrative in this country, give us the political cover that we need to deliver the agenda that we need to deliver to save the United Kingdom. And I think the political landscape is very volatile at the moment. The Conservative Party isn't the Conservative Party of old. I don't think it can assume votes are going to float back to it as Labour completely screws up the country. I don't think the Conservatives can assume that's going to happen. And there is a lot of room on our side of the debate to produce a political force, a lot of room. And reform needs to occupy that room, or it needs to give up. It needs to occupy that room faithfully, rigorously and robustly, or it needs to give up that room. Anyway, I'm here to stay until the country is saved. And on that upbeat note, I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday. Thank you very much for listening.